welcome to the Centre for Computing History. I'm sat in front of one of our new additions, which is the Commodore Max, a computer released in 1982 by Commodore International, rather than the usual CBM or Commodore business machines. It was sold only in Japan, and it was mainly the work of the engineer Yashi Terakura, who has seen the new chipset by Al Charpentier and Bob Yanis. The Max shares very many parts of the Commodore 64 design, so it has a 6510 CPU, it has the same 6581 SID chip, and it also has the VIC-2 graphics chip. There are obvious differences, of course. The Max is a lot smaller, and it also has this membrane keyboard. It's actually not too bad to type on until you get to the spacebar, which is like this touch-sensitive piece, and it's a little bit unwieldy to use in practice. There is no onboard BASIC in the machine. To get it to do anything, you have to plug a cartridge in the back. It was actually conceived as a video game console. The programming capabilities were added later. We can demonstrate that by turning the machine off, removing the cartridge, turn the machine back on, and it does absolutely nothing, goes to a black screen. Interestingly, if you have a tape deck attached to it, the motor of the tape deck runs continuously, but the machine does absolutely nothing else. So we can turn the machine off again, put our cartridge in, and we're going to load the BASIC back in. Okay, so the machine only has 2 kilobytes of memory. This was quite deliberate. It was to keep the cost down, and the machine was really meant to run off of cartridges. Other Commodore machines, like the VIC-20 and the later Commodore 16, had RAM packs to increase the size of the memory of the machine. That would be a lot more difficult with the Max, as you'd have had to build BASIC into the cartridge as well. There were 2 versions of BASIC for the machine. You had the Color BASIC, which you had just 512 bytes of memory, and you didn't even have a command for the tape deck. Then there was the Commodore Max BASIC, which gave you the full 2 kilobytes. Apart from cartridges, the only other way to load anything into the machine would have been through a cassette port, exactly the same as the other Commodore machines. Wouldn't have been an awful lot of point to it because you couldn't really do an awful lot with 2K. The cartridges are compatible with the Commodore 64. They both use the same cartridge system, and that is the one major thing left over from the Commodore Max that ended up in the Commodore 64. You can even play Max games like Le Mans on a Commodore 64, and the Commodore 64 version of Le Mans will also play on the Max. So the Max compatibility mode was used in the Commodore 64 for things like cheat cartridges, things like the action replays. You could add infinite lives to your games and copy your cassette games onto disk. The Commodore 64 manual actually does mention the Max by name, so it's quite likely that Commodore were planning to sell the machine worldwide. It was supposed to be called the VC-10 in Germany and the Ultimax in America, neither of which materialised. Okay, so the case, like a lot of Commodore machines and a lot of later Atari machines as well, was designed by Ira Velensky, and it's got a few nice little features on it here. So for a start, you've got a joystick port on either side of the case. Then we've got the power button, where the power is plugged in, an audio socket, the cartridge slot, channel select, which you'd have needed in Japan, the TV out, the RF, and then the cassette port. So it's absolutely fantastic to have the Max in the collection now. I've always personally wanted one myself. I love the design of them. It's very sleek. It doesn't actually do anything a Commodore 64 doesn't do. You can take the Max cart that I'm going to show you in a minute, plug it into a Commodore 64, and it will work exactly the same. But it's rare. It's Japanese only, won't have seen very many of them out in the wild. A computer of the spec that it's got would have cost the equivalent of $179 back in 1982. Obviously, being a Japanese machine, its output is NTSC-J. We've actually got it connected up through a frame rate converter so we can get a decent picture out of it for you. Our one has actually been modded as well. You see we haven't got anything coming out of the video socket here. With a little bit of wiring, both the video and the sound come out of the audio socket. Okay, so let's have a little run through of what this machine can do. So the first thing we've got here is we are in CBM Basic version 2. So we can do the usual thing here and demonstrate the keyboard a little bit. We can do print hello world. The keyboard's actually not too bad. It's spongy, most of the keys are spongy, but like I said earlier, we've got this space bar that's completely flat and you don't seem to get a response off of it, which makes the combination of the two a bit strange. So put the command in here and see it didn't register the space bar then, there we go. And then we can run. And there we go, our little usual hello world. Like every other Commodore Micro, we've got a run stop button so we can stop the program. Now if I wanted to save this to tape, I could go save, inverted commas, hello, and it would say press record and play on tape. Now what we've actually got for our Macs is we have got a homebrew Multimax cartridge. This is apparently everything the Macs ever had released on it, which was about 20 cartridges plus regional variations, so somewhere around 30 programs on it, and have a little go at some of them. So I think the first one we'll have a go at is Avenger. Avenger is also on the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64. But I don't know whether it's just because the machine's a little bit special, I don't know. I actually really prefer the Max version. So we're going to press the button here and off we go. So, good old Space Invaders basically. Oh, I've done appallingly there. I've died almost immediately. So, it looks and sounds very, very much like the Commodore 64 version. We'll go here and try and clear the screen. Ah, bonus, excellent. Of course, Space Invaders shouldn't need any introduction here, but oh, I'm not doing that well. Okay, they're speeding up. Another thing I should mention whilst I'm playing this here is any individual Max cartridges, when they do appear on certain auction websites, they are very, very expensive indeed. Usually somewhere around the £80 mark. Very few were produced. And as I said earlier, you can really just play the Commodore 64 versions at an awful lot cheaper. The Max cartridge boxes were very similar to the VIC-20 ones, so largely of cardboard construction, so I don't think that many have actually survived. Right, so that is Avenger. Okay, so let's have a go at Slalom. That sounds like fun. So other oft-used rumours for the Max are that the SID chip is actually a different one. In the C64 it isn't. It's exactly the same one. And also that you have to rewire the cassette deck to use on the Max, and you don't have to do that either. This is a thrilling little game, isn't it? So, oh, it's hit a tree. Probably the best thing for him. I've only got a minute to play. Oh, that was quick. Wow, that's extraordinary. Okay. Right, so I'm trying to look for ones that... There was one, what was I playing? Is it Wizard of War? It's quite a good little maze shoot 'em up. Oh wow, wow. It actually does. Oh wow, they actually do use a slightly clever tactics to try and hunt you down, which is a. Wow, that was fairly tricky. I don't think I want to play it anymore. That's obviously an arcade game. I know what I'm going to do now. I'm going to swap to the paddle controllers. Put the joystick over there. So I have my Commodore branded paddles. There's a couple of other games that are quite fun here. Let's remove that one. Okay. We're going to play first Le Mans. I've forgotten with the paddle controller, you actually control the menu with the paddle. Okay. Button on the paddle. Now this has got the noisiest fire button I've ever come across. This does remind me of Monaco Grand Prix on the SG-1000. Up the screen, is any, oh, I was wondering if anything else was going to appear. There we go. Oh, headlights now in the dark. Oh, nearly hit the side. Oh, I'm in flames. Very, very sensitive little paddle. Whoa. Race over. Awesome. Right, where's my favourite? There's one on here, because it reminds me, once again, as I said in another video, of, oh, I keep doing that. Now I've got the, it's another one that does remind me of the first game I ever played. Reminds me of a reverse depth charge. So I'm actually firing my torpedoes up at these ships. I discovered very quickly with the Max that you do actually need paddle controllers. There's quite a few games that actually use it. Now, because it's a fairly rare machine, or a very rare machine actually, it does cost quite a lot of money to obtain one. For a boxed one, you're looking, depending on conditions, £700 to £1,000. An unboxed one somewhere between £400 and £600. So they don't come up very often, and when they do, they're quite a lot of money. I think we'll leave that one there. Okay, so this should be pretty well known to anyone who owns a Commodore 64 or a VIC-20. The timeless Amiga Race. Oh wow, I've got to start again, have I? Oh wow. And I'm as bad as it on the Max as I am on the 64 and VIC-20. So I hope you've enjoyed our look at the Commodore Max, one of the many rare machines we have at the museum. Many thanks to our supporters on Patreon who help us make this content. Thanks very much for watching, and goodbye.